Well, hello, retro game players. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Marcus, and this is a very different and very special video. This is kind of a channel update video, and I haven't done very many channel update videos, but this is an important one because it affects all of you as well. And essentially, what's going on is that this is going to be the first in a series of new videos called I'm Moving, because I am going to be moving about 2 hours west of where I currently live. And 2 hours isn't that long of a drive. However, I have a lot of stuff, and I'm going to be making small trips of items. And I'll tell you what, it took me a long time to get this recording process set up the way that you guys see these videos. So for every video that I'm doing, with the exception which I'll describe, but basically every single video I do where it's gameplay is captured using the actual hardware, so Sega Saturn, Dreamcast, NES, Super Nintendo, goes on and on. The only times I don't do that are for MAME machine games or Laserdisc games or that kind of emulation. Now, the reason that I'm doing this video is because I'm going to be moving all this stuff. I have to tear down all of my capturing equipment, and a lot of people probably just hook up like an Elgato to a USB and set up a game capture, and they use a webcam and all that, and I do it a little differently. I don't know if it's the best way at all. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I did want to kind of talk about, what this channel is, why I came up with the idea, and sort of, how I began, and then I'm going to show you guys in this video the behind the scenes of how I do everything, all of my crazy equipment that I've got that I use to capture and kind of audio mix, which I know it sounds really ridiculous because it's not like my videos are amazing, I know that. But there's a process to it, and it took me a long time to be able to get to where I can capture so many different consoles. And then I'm going to talk about each, and this is going to be different videos, but what I'm going to do is the next video might be I'm moving, and it'll be my Sega Genesis collection. And I'll actually take my Sega Genesis collection and box it up and talk about different games. And then I'm going to do that with NES and my Game Gear games, and my Virtual Boy. And then it's going to go into action figures and comics and gaming magazines. Because the collection that I have, I've lived in my house where I'm at now for probably 10 years. And I'm extremely proud of the game room that I've created. And there's actually another thing that I haven't really talked too much about on this channel. There's only a couple videos that show my and I call it my micro arcade. And that's, pinball games and a couple arcade games that I have. And I'm actually going to go through and talk about those as I kind of prepare them to be moved. And partly this is going to happen this way because when I get to my new house, I'm going to have room for this stuff, but it's going to take months to get it all set up, all my arcade games set up again. And then especially the game capturing software and the game capturing hardware is going to take me a long time to get set up, as you'll see in just a couple minutes. But I did want to talk about how I started this channel in January of 2015. That's when I actually launched the channel. I spent about 2 months coming up with a concept of what I wanted to do, and I know it's just like Let's Plays, but also pickup videos, and I did a couple tech videos. Like one of my first videos was modding an Atari 2600 and giving it S-video and composite, and I really liked that video, and I actually do a lot of technical modding that I haven't talked about. So this video will give me, or this series will give me an opportunity to talk about any things, that I have upcoming, projects that I have. I mean, when you guys see my garage, you're going to basically say, wow, dude, this guy has way too many projects. And I do. I have so many freaking projects that I have to pick and choose when I can do them. And also, if I'm going to do videos for you guys, I want them to be good. I don't want them to just be crap videos. So that's why I've tried to, you know, not just do crap videos where I'm just filming whatever. So anyway, this is going to talk about upcoming projects I've done. For example, at some point when I box up my Dreamcast collection, I'll talk about some of the mods I've done to my Dreamcast. And I'll talk about a little bit here, but so yeah, anyway, when I first started in January of 2015, I spent a couple months kind of researching how to capture game footage, because I had a lot of the consoles. I mean, I really have always had a pretty large game collection, but I wanted to make sure that I captured the original hardware the way it looks. I didn't want to use emulators, and believe me, I'll talk about some other systems that I have that are all about emulation and ROMs and all that, but basically, my whole thing was I want to present to you guys the actual hardware, you know, as much as I could. So that's was my goal. And when I first started, I actually started on Twitch, and I really only did that for like maybe a couple weeks or a month. And I learned how to use what's known as OBS. A lot of you guys know what that is. And I used that and I streamed. And what I thought was the perfect thing was to make videos on Twitch and then export from Twitch to YouTube. And what happened was that was okay, but the quality was really degraded and it looked like crap. In fact, if you go back and look at some of my early videos, I was totally learning what I was doing and learning the format, you know, and all that. But the quality of the videos really sucked. And I can't remember when it was, but at some point I just decided to kind of stop doing Twitch because I wanted to have my videos on YouTube look really good and look, you know, as crisp as I could get them. And I've fought with audio challenges from day one. I mean, it was only like 2 weeks ago that I uploaded a video where my audio got all out of sync. And I mean, I'm still struggling with, you know, what the issues can be when I'm editing. And partly it's because of my complicated setup. So anyway, I don't want to totally go too much onto this. I want to talk about some of how I do this, and that's what this video is going to be. So this is, you know, part one. I'm going to just talk about all the different things that I use and my kind of my current setup. And anyway, I hope you guys like this, and let's just get right into it. All right, guys, so this is my first cut of the camera that I actually use, and I apologize for the mic quality because this is my cell phone filming this, but I wanted to show the actual camera that I use for, you know, doing my face cam overlays and also everything else. So this is a super old camera. I think I bought it in 2009, and I got a great deal at the time. I ordered it from Japan. I had a job at the time, and I've said in previous videos, I'm a tech guy by trade, and I was working on these videos for a client. And so I had to find a good video that I could use, or a good video camera, and so this is the one I settled on. And the reason mostly is because it's got an internal microphone, and yeah, it's a Sanyo HD 2000 or something like that. I'll put it up on the screen. I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's got a microphone in, and then it also accepted lenses, which I currently have like a wide angle lens, which I find useful, and then also it accepts the boots or the adapters for things like lights and everything like that. So that's the camera. I have a tiny little stand. It also has a little remote control, and this is the you know, monitor, so you can actually check your audio. So that's what I use for my face cam, and it works really well, although I have had moments where I'm like, I should just use a webcam, which I do have. And I'm going to cover all this in a second, but I wanted to show some of the other accessories that I use. So this is my light that I use for, I'm going to be using it here in a minute for all my, you know, other footage with that camera. This is a wireless mic that I'll be using in a second, and this is the Audio-Technica Pro 88WT, and this was like kind of the middle of the range, cheaper version. I used to use this awful one by Sony, and it was horrible. So this one's pretty good, actually. Anyway, I recommend that one. And then this is the X Grip, which is kind of like a really cheap stabilizing option, and it helps a little bit, even though the camera does a pretty good job. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hook up the camera to the X Grip and get a light on it and mount my mic. And so we're going to switch that right now, and then I'm going to talk about the rest of this crap. Okay, so here's the location where my camera was. I'm now using the Sanyo to film. So yeah, there's my tiny little tripod. Let's go ahead and talk about my mic first. Here's my pop screen, get that out of the way. So this is an Audio-Technica 4033A, I believe. It's a condenser microphone. I've used this for a long time. I've had it for a long time. It's XLR, which is powered and works really well. I've used it for music recording, so like vocals and guitars and stuff like that. It's a really great mic, so that's what I've used it for. I've been tempted to switch to a USB mic for just gaming, but I just haven't. So anyway, that's one thing why my setup's a little more complex. This is a sheet that I use to kind of categorize my weekly videos, at least so I can kind of keep a running stat of like what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, and kind of keeps me organized. I just want to show these because they're kind of cool. These are Nintendo original folders, and there's a Zelda one over here. This lamp is really bright, and I use this to kind of shade it, so that's kind of why that's there. My actual monitors are Alesis MK2s, which are the M1 Active series. They're really good. They, they're not intended for like media really. They're really meant for like recording, but they work great. That's what I use them for. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. Here's my other one set up right here. So let's go ahead and talk about my Wii U, which is right here. The Wii U is the Zelda edition, which I've mentioned before. I got that with box for like $200 off Craigslist, which was so cool. So that's the Zelda edition, and yeah, I really like that one. This is my Dreamcast, which is actually modded a little bit. So for example, you'll notice there's a blue LED, so I swapped out the LEDs for a blue one. Also, the rechargeable battery that is in the Dreamcast usually goes bad, so I replaced it with a couple of AAA rechargeable batteries that I just soldered together, and that's a mod that I found online. And then I also fixed a couple other things, like the laser. I adjusted the laser, and then I fixed like the power setup on it. Usually like causes issues, and so I rebuilt the power thing on there. So anyway, a couple little mods. This is the VGA box back here for the Dreamcast. This actually gives me RGB and VGA, but I just use RGB. And this was a custom one that was made, and I can't remember the name of them. I'll put the link or the description up so you can tell. But anyway, I really like that one. It also generates scan lines, which is very useful and makes the Dreamcast look really good. So most of my games are in RGB if I can. And then this is a HDMI switcher, which I use. This goes right into an Elgato HD60, which is my main capturing. It's really dusty, but this is what captures all my footage basically, unless, I mean, gosh, I think that actually does capture everything. So it all goes in through here. This is one HDMI switcher, and then here's another one for some overflow HDMI devices, and that way, they're all labeled like Wii U or the Wii over here, and I can kind of toggle depending on what input I need. So that's what that's for. This is a Focusrite, and this is used for actually just powering my monitors, as far as like the sound for the speakers. It does work as a recording setup too, but I don't use it for that anymore. I used to, and then I got this mixer. And the mixer is a Behringer, really small unit, but it's really cool. Sorry, it's not a Behringer. It's a, or is it a Behringer? Yeah, Behringer. UB1202. So it's got XLR input, and it allows me to do a lot of cool things. So like I've got one computer volume here, a second computer here. This is left and right for my records, so all the vinyl that I do, that's my volume. This is the mic input for my Audio-Technica over here. So that basically goes right into this. I'm able to control that. So I really like it. It made a big difference, even though it's really confusing. I do label everything, so, you know, I'm able to do that. But having a mixer helps me a lot. This is the keyboard and mouse for computer number 1, which is actually on the ground down here. And then this is the keyboard and mouse for computer 2. Now, computer 2 is over here, and I actually have a video where I built that kind of a long time ago now. But it is still very fast, does a lot. It's great for Grand Theft Auto 5. I've played The Witcher on there. I've played my flight sim games, Dirt 3. My MAME machine is kind of built into that as well. Here's the MAME controller. This is just an X Arcade. So anytime you see me playing like the Laserdisc games or anything like that, this is the controller that I'm using. Also, I'll use this controller, which is just a Microsoft, you know, Xbox, whatever controller. So, yeah, so basically that's the keyboard and mouse for that computer. And I capture that through the HDMI into the Elgato. So that's kind of weird. And then computer 1, I use the software, the Elgato software, which is called Game Capture HD. And it works pretty good. It honestly has gotten a lot better than it used to be. It used to be really bad. But yeah, this works a lot better. So that's kind of what I do there. And then on this computer, actually it's the same computer, this is like 2 screens, but this is my editing software, which I use Corel Video Studio, which, God, I'll tell you what, they have a new version called X9 and I might buy it. But I've been using Corel since like 2006 or something, and I just learned how to use it. I think I started when it was like X3, and I've just stayed with it. So it really sucks because, I mean, it does a lot of cool things with like green screens and some special effects and transitions, and it's like I kind of get it now. But it's like I've spent too much time on it to switch. That's kind of the way it seems like anyway. And this is my main monitor, by the way, which is like a Vizio LED. It's actually a 3D TV, which is really cool. Got it really cheap. So yeah, I'll actually watch 3D movies, and I have played some 3D games on this. Like, I'm trying to think of some that I've played. I think I played through Crysis 2. I configured some games that weren't meant to be in 3D. American McGee's Alice, actually the second Alice, not the first one. And then sometimes I'll set up just like any other 3D game I can on here and play it just for fun. But it's kind of fun to watch us movies on there too. This is the Wii and the Wii U sensor bars right there on top. So let's see, I don't think I'm missing anything. Oh, this is important. This is where my consoles go. So like if I'm setting up a Dreamcast or a Saturn or a Nintendo, this is where I grab the corresponding cable. So this is like S-Video for Nintendo. This is RCA for certain Nintendo. This is just standard composite and also S-Video. Sega Saturn. This is RGB Nintendo. This is Sega Master System. This is Xbox. So basically I'm able to grab whatever device I want. You know, I think I have another. Yeah, here's RGB Genesis. So these all feed into a switch. So I'll go ahead and show you where that is. This is where it gets really crazy. So back here I have a couple switches. This is the SCART, which is a European standard, but it looks great. And so in order to get the signal from an RGB system, I have to put it through this switch, which I just toggle, and then that sends an RGB signal to my FrameMeister Mini, which is sitting up here. And the FrameMeister Mini processes the information, and then it sends it to the Elgato over there. So basically, in the end, it looks really good. And this generates scan lines too. So for all of my games, you'll notice scan lines. And that's because this is putting those on there. Now, when I use the Dreamcast, because that has a VGA box that is also doing scan lines, I disable them from here. But everything is pretty much filtered through here. There's a few exceptions. The Wii U does not go through the FrameMeister This PC does not go through the FrameMeister. This goes directly into the Elgato. Actually, it goes into that button, that selector, the HDMI selector. So that's what goes there. The PS3 is located right here. And the PS3, you can see I've got Kane and Lynch up there. That's the game we're playing. PS3 is weird. You know, capturing that through the Elgato is pretty tricky. And so for me, I put it directly into the FrameMeister. And what I do is I enable scan lines. And what that does is it lets me record it, because if I have scan lines off, I get these things called HDCP errors, which are like some kind of copy protection error. And anyway, I don't really know much about that, but I do know that if I turn on the scan lines, it lets me record PS3 gameplay footage. So that's how I'm doing like Assassin's Creed and Kane and Lynch and all that stuff. This is a Wii that is modded, and it's got a ton of emulators that I personally configured. Now, as I said, well, actually, I've never recorded this. I can record it, and I will make a video once we get to the Wii series of moving videos. But basically, the way it works is I have like Sega CD emulation on this. I've got which works with the light guns, by the way. Also TurboGrafx-16, NES, Super Nintendo, all that other stuff. But the ones I'm proud of are like Sega CD, the TurboGrafx-16. Those are really cool. So it's got a homebrew menu with all that. This is an external hard drive on top that the Wii is pulling from. And for Wii games, I mean, I have a huge collection of Wii games, and I'll show you those at some point. But you know, this does play burned games too, or you can put the image on the hard drive, but I don't really do that. And then what's really interesting is that because this is component, meaning it's a type of kind of HD, it's like 480p, you have to use something that scans that, or at least sees it. So that's what this is. I have to reach back here. It's kind of hard to grab, but this is a component kind of to HDMI selector or adapter. So it works really well. And so I can plug in things like for example, the PS2 will work in component on some games. And but the Wii kind of mostly runs in that. And then I'm able to capture that, you know, and then it goes over here to right here actually on my HDMI selector to the Wii. And so anyway, that's how I can capture the Wii if I want, which I really haven't played any games on that for the channel, but I've played tons of Wii games. So I'll talk more about that as we go. This is another switch that I have down here, which is really just for composite and S-video. So that's what this is. So this is like an S-video and composite selector. And all of that, this whole section, this rat's nest over here, goes to those cables. So that's what this cable setup's for. So all of that stuff feeds into here. And then this is my turntable. The turntable is a Newmark. It's a direct drive. It's really meant for DJ scratching and that kind of stuff. But I use it, and it's fine. I mean, I have a couple other record players, but this is the one that's down here, and you know, it works fine. This is a butter rug, actually. This is a Batman knife. This is what I use for all my unboxing videos. But this butter rug up here kind of can help you scratch, you know, but I'm not really using it for that. And it works fine for just playing, you know, music on. But again, I'm able to capture that using my mixer over here, which is very useful. So that's how I get the sound to sound good. This thing I have sitting out, I have that sitting out for a reason. I just wanted to mention that it's a recent pickup, and it's a VGA with audio to HDMI. So the reason I got that is because I actually have a Game Gear that I'm going to be modding soon to give me VGA out. And I'm gonna make a video, but you know, this kind of falls into the category of how many projects I have, so it's gonna be a while before I do that. But this is, once I do that, it's ready to go. Under here is a Laserdisc player. This is a old school Laserdisc player. Pioneer is definitely the brand you typically want to use. I'm really into laser discs. I've got a huge collection, something like 600 plus, and 3 different players. None of them are really high-end players, but they all work great. This remote's really cool. This is like kind of an old school remote, like you can slide this up to access different parts, which is pretty cool. So I love the look of these things, and I love the silver too. I think that's really awesome. So I'll do a video on that as well, and the other laser discs I have, because I actually have a lot of laser discs that are game related. Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. So yep, there's the computer that I mentioned before. This is actually used again for all my, you know, really crazy games that require power. PS3, and then this is the Mac. This is actually a Mac Plus SE. Now, the Mac Plus is the first computer that I ever really got into when I was a kid, and I played all kinds of games on this. I mean, back in the day, it was games like Radical Castle, Vampire Castle, Deja Vu, you know, lots of games like that. Obviously, the Apple II was something that I played in school, but this was the one that I was fortunate enough to have at my dad's house. So this was a really cool computer to have. I do have a couple others of these, and I'll make a more detailed video, but at some point I really wanted to showcase some of the games I have for it. Move this guy. So there's a lot of software I have for this, but none of the cool games that I remember. These are all like games that, you know, they're okay, but the ones that I want are really hard to get on this thing. And I recently found a adapter that lets me plug in actually an SD card with images for this, and it emulates a floppy disk drive. So I really love these old Mac looks. This keyboard, by the way, is not an original Mac one. I do have them, but this one is kind of meant for this computer, which seems weird, but it's just the way it's set up. It's got a num key and stuff, and it's kind of, anyway, I've just left it. It's kind of, when it was purchased originally, that's what was sold with it. So anyway, so I'm going to do more, you know, Mac videos down the road. It's something that's also hard to capture. I don't really want to use an emulator, but I could. I just have to figure out a way to capture this. So anyway, that pretty much covers all of this stuff and kind of my rat's nest setup. And like I said, I'll be doing other videos that talk about, you know, the different collections. So I'll just give you an example. I'll be going into these drawers and these cabinets as I move. But so like here's one drawer, tons of Atari games. Let me move this. This is Super Nintendo. Move this one out. This is Game Gear and some loose Sega Genesis games. So, you know, that's just like part of each collection, but you know, I'll go through those and talk about them and stuff. But as you can see, it took a long time to get all this set up. So, you know, tearing it all down and then putting it up at the new house is going to be quite the chore. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys all this. So this is what I'm working with. But yeah, let's cut back to me.
All right, guys, so there you go. You can see how everything kind of works, and you can see how much, you know, detail goes into what I do. But yeah, there's going to be more videos like this. It's just we're going to focus on different aspects of the game room. So different aspects, like I said, is going to be, you know, like my Sega collection or, you know, whatever. And I'll box those up and I'll just talk about each one. And I think that's going to be pretty interesting for you guys. So anyway, I'm still going to have gameplay videos, and I wanted to make sure that was clear. I've got about 14 videos recorded as of this moment, and I still have probably 90 days, 60 days till I move. So I'm going to still record footage, but you know, I just wanted to say it's going to be a mix of things. So it's going to be a mix of this I'm Moving series, and it's also going to be a mix of, you know, games that I've previously recorded, maybe a couple pickup videos, that kind of stuff. But I really appreciate you guys subscribing. Thanks so much. This has been a really great thing for me, and I'm really into it. I honestly, you know, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would be playing these games anyway. I mean, that's just what I do. I don't play the games to, you know, whatever, like get subscribers. That's not why I do it. I honestly
before I had this YouTube channel, I would play through probably like, and I'm saying like play through and beat probably 3-4 games a month. And that's like newer, older games. I mean, I just appreciate video gaming in general, but obviously retro gaming is where my heart's at. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, you guys, and you know what to do. Until next time, you keep that shit retro by hopefully being a retro game player. Later on.